At my sister's wedding, I was stopped by a security guard and denied entry. "Your name is not on the list," he said coldly. I saw my mother and sister watching and laughing from a distance. I said nothing and left. The next day, they came to me in tears, begging for a reason I never could have expected. I, 29M, always knew my family had issues, but what happened last weekend still feels surreal. Growing up as the middle child between my older sister, 32, and younger brother, 25, I always felt like the outsider. My sister was the golden child, perfect grades, perfect career, perfect fiancé from a wealthy family. My brother was the baby who could do no wrong. And me? I was just there. Our dad passed away when I was 14, leaving my mom to raise us. While she doted on my siblings, I was always held to impossibly high standards. Nothing was ever good enough. I became a paramedic, not glamorous like my sister's corporate law career or exciting like my brother's social media influencer lifestyle, but I saved lives and I'm proud of it. I worked hard, bought a modest house, and built a decent life for myself. Last year, my sister got engaged to her boyfriend of 3 years. He comes from old money, and the wedding was set to be the social event of the season. I wasn't particularly close with either of them, but I was happy for her and planned to attend. 6 months ago, things took a weird turn. My mom and sister started asking me for loans. First, it was $500 for a dress. Then $1,000 for some emergency. Then $5,000 for wedding expenses. I helped out the first couple of times, but when the requests kept coming, I started saying no. My sister would cry. My mom would guilt-trip me about family obligation, but I stood firm. That's when the dynamic shifted. They began excluding me from family gatherings. When I'd call, they'd be busy. Text messages went unanswered. Still, I figured we'd patch things up eventually. Then came last weekend, my sister's wedding. I arrived at the venue, dressed in my best suit. As I approached the entrance, a security guard stopped me. "Name?" he asked. "I'm the bride's brother," I replied, confused by the formality. He checked his list, frowning. "Your name is not on the list," he said coldly. "There must be some mistake," I insisted. "I'm the brother of the bride." The guard shrugged. "Sorry, sir. If you're not on the list, you can't enter." That's when I noticed them, my mom and sister standing about 20 feet away, watching this unfold. They weren't rushing over to clear up the confusion. They were laughing. My sister whispered something to my mom, who nodded with a smirk. I felt my face burn with humiliation as other guests walked past me, giving me curious looks. I could have made a scene, but what was the point? They didn't want me there. So I said nothing, turned around, and left. I drove home in stunned silence. Had I really just been deliberately excluded from my own sister's wedding? All those loans I couldn't provide. Was this their revenge? I spent the evening with a bottle of whiskey, ignoring calls from a few friends who'd been at the wedding and noticed my absence. The next morning, I was awakened by pounding on my front door. I dragged myself out of bed to find my mom and sister on my doorstep. Their faces were streaked with tears. "We need to talk to you," my mom said, trembling. Against my better judgment, I let them in. "Why did you do it?" my sister demanded. "Do what?" I asked, genuinely confused. "The wedding gift," my mom clarified. "Why would you be so cruel?" I stared at them blankly. "What wedding gift?" I wasn't even allowed into the wedding. They exchanged glances. "The envelope," my sister said. "You sent an envelope with a wedding coordinator." I shook my head. "I didn't send anything." "You had me turn away at the door." My mom pulled something from her purse, a thick envelope with my handwriting on it. Except it wasn't my handwriting, just a decent imitation. Inside was a note that read, "The money you've been asking for, along with bank statements showing I had over $300,000 in savings but had been too selfish to help with the wedding." I was stunned. I didn't write this. I don't have anywhere near that kind of money. Someone's playing a sick joke. "Then who?" my sister demanded. That's when it hit me. My younger brother had always been good at copying my handwriting, a skill he'd used multiple times to forge notes from our parents when we were in school. "Where's brother?" I asked. Their expressions changed instantly. My sister's eyes widened. "He wouldn't." My mom reluctantly pulled out her phone and put it on speaker. When my brother answered, she asked him point blank if he had anything to do with the envelope. His laugh came through the speaker. Took you long enough to figure it out. Did Golden Boy enjoy being the bad guy for once? My sister gasped. Why would you do that? You've ruined everything. Because I'm sick of both of you, my brother replied. You've been harassing our brother for money he doesn't have, while I've been sitting on Dad's inheritance that Mom gave me behind your backs. I thought it was time for some truth to come out. The phone went silent as my mom lunged to hang up. But the damage was done. I stared at her in shock. Dad's inheritance? What inheritance? My mom couldn't meet my eyes. After a long silence, she admitted that my dad had left a sizable insurance policy, nearly $600,000. It was meant to be split equally between the 3 children for college and our futures. But she had given my brother and sister their shares years ago, while telling me there was nothing left for me. We needed it, my sister said weakly. My law school was expensive, and brother needed startup capital for his business. And what about me? I asked quietly. I worked 2 jobs to put myself through paramedic training. I took out loans I'm still paying off. You were always so capable, my mom replied, as if that explained everything. We knew you'd be fine. I felt ice-cold clarity wash over me. Years of being the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who didn't need help because I would be fine on my own. Get out, I said calmly. But we need to talk about this, my sister pleaded. The wedding was a disaster. That sounds like a you problem, I replied. I'm done being the family ATM. Get out of my house. They left, but that wasn't the end. Over the next few days, they bombarded me with calls and texts, alternating between apologies and blame. My brother-in-law called to berate me for ruining their special day, before I could explain what really happened. I consulted with an attorney about the inheritance issue. She confirmed that if my dad had specifically left the money to his children in equal parts, my mom had likely committed fraud. We could pursue legal action, but it would be messy and expensive. Instead, I made a different decision. I gathered every bit of evidence, text messages begging for money, bank transfers I'd made help them, and an audio recording of my mom's confession about the inheritance. Thank you, home security system. I drafted a detailed email explaining exactly what had happened, attached all the evidence, and sent it to our entire extended family. The fallout was nuclear. My mom's siblings were appalled. My dad's family were vindicated. My sister's in-laws, who prided themselves on their family's good name, were mortified to have connected themselves to such a scandal. My sister called me hysterical. How could you do this to us? My in-laws are talking about annulment. They're saying I come from a family of thieves. I'm just being honest, I replied. Something this family has struggled with. My mom showed up at my workplace, causing a scene until security escorted her out. She claimed I was destroying the family out of spite. My brother surprisingly reached out with a different message. I'm sorry for using you as a pawn, he texted. But they needed to face consequences. They did the same thing to me, made me the bad kid while making you the invisible middle child. Different tactic, same damage. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to forgive any of them. 3 weeks after the wedding, my sister's in-laws insisted on a meeting with all of us. They had rented a conference room at their family attorney's office. When I arrived, my mom, sister, brother, and my sister's in-laws were already there, along with their stern-faced lawyer. We've reviewed the evidence, the father-in-law began, and we're deeply disturbed by what we've found. We value honesty and integrity in our family. These actions reflect none of that. My sister began crying. It wasn't supposed to be like this. By stealing your brother's inheritance and then trying to shame him publicly, the mother-in-law asked. That's not how decent people behave. The family lawyer cleared his throat. We've prepared some documents. First, we're requesting the return of all wedding gifts while we determine if the marriage will continue. Second, we've drafted a repayment plan for your brother's portion of the inheritance with interest. My mom protested immediately. I don't have that kind of money anymore. Then you'll have to sell assets, the lawyer replied coldly, or face legal consequences. But there was more. While gathering evidence about the inheritance, I discovered something else disturbing. Hidden in a safety deposit box my dad had maintained that I only learned about through his old business partner were documents suggesting my dad might have suspected my mom was having an affair. Most shocking was a DNA test that suggested my brother might not be my dad's biological son. This explains so much: my mom's overprotection of my brother, the special treatment, and perhaps why she felt entitled to redistribute the inheritance so unfairly. I didn't know what to do with this information, but I shared it with my attorney, who advised me to use it as leverage only if necessary. Meanwhile, my sister's in-laws were conducting their own investigation. They discovered my sister had exaggerated her career accomplishments. She claimed to be on track to make partner at her law firm, but she had been passed over twice and was on probation for mishandling client funds. During a confrontation about these lies, my sister accidentally revealed that some of the loans she had been pressuring me for had gone toward plastic surgery she'd hidden from her fiancé. Their prenuptial agreement had a morality clause about honesty, and her in-laws began exploring options to annul the marriage. My mom, seeing her golden child's perfect life crumbling, became desperate. She showed up at my house late one night, clearly intoxicated, offering to sign over her house to me if I would tell the in-laws that I had made everything up out of jealousy. When I refused, she threatened to claim I had been physically abusive to her, something that could potentially affect my paramedic license. I immediately called my attorney and filed a police report documenting her threat. I also reached out to my supervisor to get ahead of any potential false allegations. My brother then revealed that our mom had been stealing from our grandparents too. They thought they'd been investing in property with her, but the documents were fake. She'd spent their retirement savings. We approached our grandparents together. Initially, they refused to believe it, but when we showed them the evidence, they were devastated. My attorney connected them with a specialist in elder financial abuse. 6 weeks after the wedding, my sister's in-laws held another family meeting. This time, they had a full dossier of evidence against my sister: the mishandled client funds, hidden cosmetic procedures, and testimony from coworkers about her actual standing at the firm. "We're proceeding with annulment," my father-in-law announced. "We expect you to return all gifts and the full cost of the wedding." My sister looked shell-shocked. "You can't do this. Our son was manipulated into this union through deception that we can prove in court," her mother-in-law replied. 2 months later, my mom faced the consequences of her actions. Forced to sell her house to repay my inheritance and facing potential criminal charges for the fraud against my grandparents, she tried one last desperate move, attempting to transfer the deed of her house to my sister to shield assets. The title company flagged the suspicious transaction and notified my attorney. This attempt at fraud was the final straw for the district attorney, who issued an arrest warrant. My mom was taken into custody for multiple counts of fraud and financial elder abuse. My sister's law firm terminated her employment immediately. Her professional reputation was in tatters, and the State Bar Association opened an ethics investigation. My brother used his social media platform to publicly apologize for his role in the fake wedding gift scandal, explaining that he had been manipulated by our mom for years but took responsibility for his poor choices. My grandparents moved in with me temporarily while we sorted out their finances. During this time, my grandfather shared stories about my dad that I'd never heard before: his dreams for us kids, his values, and the man he had been. A year after the wedding, my mom accepted a plea deal that included restitution, probation, and community service. My sister moved across the country to attempt a fresh start. My brother and I established a cautious but healing relationship. I used my portion of the recovered inheritance to establish a scholarship for paramedic students facing financial hardship. I bought a new house in a different neighborhood and began dating someone who values honesty and integrity. My grandparents moved into a senior community nearby, their finances secure again. Yesterday, I received a letter from my mom, claiming she was starting therapy, taking responsibility for her actions, and wanting to make amends. She asked if we could meet for coffee, saying she had changed and realized the damage she had caused. I haven't responded yet. Part of me wants closure, but a bigger part remembers standing outside my sister's wedding, watching them laugh at my humiliation. For now, I'm focusing on my own life and the family I choose, not the one I was born into. And if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free.